Okay. Have you ever felt like, I don't know, maybe your phone is kind of sort of listening to you, like those targeted ads, I swear, right after you talk about something?
Yeah, it's creepy. And it's
Mhm.
not just a feeling, it's really happening.
Exactly. So today we're going to deep dive into, all this location tracking stuff. We've got some investigative reports that show how companies can pinpoint where we are.
With like scary accuracy. And often we don't even know about it.
Right. So we're talking companies like Babel Street and Location X. They can track literally millions of phones.
And what's crazy is how easy it is to get this data. There's this Krebs on Security article. A security researcher got a free trial from Location X just by, get this, saying they were interested in government contracts. That's it.
Wow, that's unsettling. And this article, it talks about how this researcher could see where people went, like over time, even zooming in on specific places. It's a bit much, right?
Yeah, it makes you think twice about, I don't know, carrying a phone at all. And it raises a big question. Even if these companies say they only give this data to law enforcement, how do we know they're not misusing it?
Right, like who's actually watching and what are they doing with all this data? It's kind of a black box, and that's what's worrying.
For sure. And there have been some real consequences, like this report talks about a police officer in New Jersey. She was doxxed and threatened. Someone used Location X to get her location info, like really detailed stuff. Scary.
That's really scary. It makes you realize how vulnerable we are. Like anyone could be targeted like that.
Absolutely. Imagine, just going about your day and someone is tracking your every move, where you go, who you meet. It could put you in real danger.
Then there's this 404 media report. They looked at people visiting an abortion clinic. They used this tech to track them, like pinpoint their devices. They knew how long people were there, where they came from.
Wow. So now we're talking serious ethical questions. Where's the line when it comes to privacy? What are the limits? And who gets to decide those limits? These are big questions, in a world that's so connected.
Yeah, big questions. So let's back up a bit. How does all this tracking even work? How do they follow us around like digital shadows?
Well, it starts with our phones, right?
Mhm.
Android and iOS, they both have these unique IDs. They're like digital fingerprints, leaving a trail everywhere.
And that's where the app permissions come in, I guess.
Exactly. All those apps, they ask for your location, and then a lot of times they just sell that data.
Wait, so even if I'm careful, these apps can just sell my data without me knowing?
Yep. To data brokers. These huge companies collect data from all sorts of places, those apps on your phone, and build these detailed profiles on you. It's all legal, but most people have no idea it's even happening.
So, like, how do we protect ourselves if our data is basically being traded like, I don't know, baseball cards?
Well, the first thing is to understand how location tracking works. We've talked about GPS, but there are other methods too, like using cell towers.
So even if I turn off GPS, I could still be tracked.
Yeah, through cell tower triangulation. It estimates your location based on the signal strength to nearby towers.
Yeah.
And then there's Wi-Fi tracking. Your phone can be tracked based on the Wi-Fi networks it connects to, or even just to texts. So yeah, even if you think you've covered your tracks, there are still ways you can be followed.
Wow, it's like there's no escaping. So
Yeah.
is there anything we can do to like get some control back? I mean, I don't want to live in a world where my every move is tracked.
You and me both.
Yeah.
But good news is, we're not totally helpless. There are steps we can take. And that's what we'll dig into in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay, so we're like glowing in the dark with all this digital stuff we're leaving behind,
Okay.
but we can, dim that glow a bit, right?
Exactly. We can take action. It's not hopeless.
So let's talk action. What can we actually do?
Well, one of the simplest things, and is really effective, is managing those app permissions. We just click allow, allow, allow.
Oh, yeah, totally guilty of that. Just want to get to the app. Don't even read what I'm agreeing to.
We've all been there. But you've got options. You can restrict location access to only while using the app, or even never if it doesn't really need it.
Right, so like my navigation app, I only need it when I'm driving so I can set it to just then.
Exactly. And while you're at it, go through all those apps you already have. You'd be surprised how many have location access when they don't need it at all.
Okay, that's a start. But what about those data brokers? They're like this invisible force,
Yeah, they can be tricky. But there are ways to make their job harder. Android users, there's a setting to delete advertising ID. Google tries to scare you, but honestly, it's a powerful tool.
Delete advertising ID. What does that even do?
Think of it like resetting your digital fingerprint. Makes it harder for those data brokers to connect your past activity to what you do later.
So I'm not invisible, but it kind of messes with their data collection.
Exactly, disrupts the flow. And for iOS users, you've got the identifier for advertisers, similar idea.
Yeah.
And of course, Apple generally has better privacy, but always good to double check those app permissions.
Okay, so app permissions, advertising IDs, got it. Anything else?
Oh yeah, turning off. Allow apps to request to track and personalized ads. That can help too. It's in your privacy settings. It might seem like a lot of settings, but think of it like digital self-defense. You're putting up boundaries.
I like that, digital self-defense. So we've got app permissions, advertising IDs, and these extra privacy settings. Anything else we can add to our arsenal?
Well, these are great, but remember, new apps come out all the time, and updates can change permissions. So it's got to be an ongoing thing, like brushing your teeth. You got to check and adjust regularly.
Okay, good point. But even with all that, it still feels like we're playing catch up. Like, are there more, I don't know, extreme things we could do?
For sure. If you want to go further, there are privacy-focused browsers. They minimize data collection while you're on the web.
Privacy-focused browsers, like what?
The popular one is Brave. It blocks trackers and ads by default. Then you've got Firefox, really good privacy controls. And there's DuckDuckGo, a search engine that doesn't track you, unlike, well, some of the big names.
So instead of Googling something, I can DuckDuckGo it. I kind of like that. But even with all these individual things, it feels bigger than that, like a systemic problem, anything happening on a larger scale.
Absolutely. Individual action is great, but we need a shift in how data is collected and used. That's where laws come in. There's a growing push for data privacy laws. They aim to give people more control over their info.
That's good to hear. So we might actually see some real changes happening at a policy level.
Definitely possible. The GDPR in Europe, that was a big step. And in the U.S., states like California and Virginia are enacting their own laws. It's a positive trend. Hopefully it keeps going.
So it's not just about our phones, it's about pushing for bigger changes,
Yeah.
Protecting privacy for everyone.
Exactly. And that's where awareness is so important. The more people understand this stuff, the more we demand change, the better chance we have of actually seeing it happen. It's like the digital rights movement. We all got to play a part.
Yeah, it's great to see people fighting for digital rights. We've covered a lot in this deep dive, haven't we? All those ways our location's tracked and the tools to protect ourselves. Like, we actually have some power.
It is pretty amazing. And this is really just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to data privacy. Location is just one part of it.
Right. So what other data is being collected? How's it all used to, like, build a profile on us?
It's kind of like they're building a digital shadow for each of us.
Right.
Our browsing history, what we buy, social media, all that, every click, every search, it leaves a trace.
It's almost like a digital tapestry of our lives. Kind of creepy when you think about it.
It is. And it can be used in ways we don't even know about. I mean, targeted ads, sure. But also to influence our choices, predict what we'll do, even mess with our emotions.
So it's not just about ads popping up. This data can, like, shape how we think and what we do.
Yeah.
Without us even knowing.
Exactly. That's why data privacy matters so much. It's
Yeah.
not just about location. It's about, I don't know, our freedom to think for ourselves, our right to make decisions without being, like, manipulated by algorithms and all that.
Right, like our digital selves are being controlled in ways we can't even see.
Yeah, it's a bit unsettling.
Yeah.
And that's exactly why we need to talk about this stuff, raise awareness. People need to know they can take control. Like, knowledge is power, right? The more we understand this data stuff, how it's used, misused, the better we can protect ourselves.
Absolutely. So what can we do to get that control back, besides what we've talked about already?
Well, a big thing is being careful about what we share online. Think before you post. Check those privacy settings. Be picky about the apps you use and the permissions they get.
Be more intentional with our digital footprint.
Exactly. And beyond what we do individually, we got to push for stronger laws. Hold those companies accountable. Demand more transparency and control over our data. It's a fight for our rights, and it takes all of us.
It does. So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one thing you really want people to take away from this?
We're not powerless. We actually have more control over our data than we think. By learning about this, taking action, demanding change, we can take back our digital privacy and shape a future where our data is used to help us, not exploit us.
I love that. It's about taking back control. Well, we hope this deep dive has given you the knowledge and tools to navigate this digital world, with more awareness and confidence.
Keep exploring this stuff, ask questions, and join the conversation. It all makes a difference.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into location tracking and data privacy. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay empowered.